Hi, I'm Dave Kincaid, a results leader.
You're listening to ResultsLeader.fm. Being a thought leader is easy. Getting results is hard. This show is for the results leader who lives and dies by their results. Here is your host and Chief Results Leader, Jonathan Rivera.
You are listening to ResultsLeader.fm, the only show on the internet dedicated to results leaders. Yes, y'all. It's time once again for another amazing interview. Today, I have the founder of Level5 Strategy, author, professor, and keynote speaker, Mr. David Kincaid. 40 years in the business of branding, and you'll hear that wisdom coming out in today's episode. Let's jump in. David, this has been a long time coming. Welcome to the show, brother.
Oh, thank you. It has. It feels like a longer than it probably has been, but it's with anticipation.
Yes, sir. So glad that you're here. Now, let's give our listeners a quick win. What book have you given most as a gift?
It's interesting. Well, aside from my books that I wrote, Jim Collins' book, the whole series of leadership book that he wrote, but all of those I found to be extremely helpful because they approached the concept of leadership, I would say left brain, right brain. They talked very specifically about here's what you must have accomplished or what you need to demonstrate. So kind of, I would call it tangible things, like things that people see, feel, touch. But then he also talks about how you approach leadership between your own ears and the challenges that come with that. So the emotional and the rational side of it. So those books I actually used as a bit of a framework as I went to start my own company, as I became a professor at business school, a university here in Canada, and as I went to write my own books. So Mr. Collins would be kind of a hero to me.
I want to take 1 second to acknowledge that you said you're a professor of business and I get to hang out with you when my teacher said I'd never amount to anything. Listening.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Too good. So tell us a story of how an apparent failure set you up for later success.
Well, this is a good one. When I left university, first of all, I had no plans of getting into business. All of my undergrad work, all of my summer jobs, everything, all were gearing me towards becoming a lawyer. I was accepted into a law school. I was ready to go, and et cetera, et cetera. And I ended up with a chance interview with a company back then, General Foods. So what is it today? Kraft Heinz or Mondelez. They all keep buying one another. But, a large packaged goods firm. And I got into it because I thought it was going to give me an opportunity to learn some things that I didn't get in any of my education. What I quickly learned, though, is I knew nothing. I mean, nothing when I went to start. And I always tell folks this story that on my first day, my boss brought me back. Now, you got to remember, this is like in 1980, so the times were a little different. But my boss brought me back down to this little cubbyhole office that I had. He said, you're going to be working on Maxwell House coffee. I thought, not a big coffee drinker, but that sounds good. Back then, there was no computers. There was no iPhones. So everything was printed. It was just big stacks of paper. And he said, okay, here's your AC Nielsen reports, and here's your volume shipment reports, and your warehouse withdrawals, and your production forecasting. And he's just plopping all this paper down on my desk. And he said, here's what I'd like. Spend the first few days, get to know the folks around you, your new teammates. And then on Friday, just pop in at the end of the day, because I'd love your thoughts after you've reviewed all this material for what you believe we could do to add half a point to the merchandising margin on Maxwell House coffee. And I kind of looked at him with them. Yeah, you bet. Let's go after it. And he closed the door. And I kind of was like, I have no bloody clue what he's talking about. Add a what to a who? Seriously, Jonathan, I didn't know at all what this guy was talking about.
How do you figure it out?
I quickly park your ego and go to people, your teammates around you, hat in hand, and say, I need you to teach me some stuff. And there were a few of them that were like, hey, I don't have time. It's up to you to go and figure all this out. But there were some friends that have remained friends for my entire life who said, okay, I like your story, Mr. Lawyer. So when I need some help with a legal issue, I'm going to be coming to you. But in the meantime, here's what the information to look at and how to analyze it, and et cetera, et cetera. So once they gave me a little bit of coaching, it was, okay, I know how to follow orders. And I did it. And I went into the meeting and I tried to present what had come out as my one or two ideas. And the boss just kind of looked at me and said, you have no friggin' clue what you're talking about, do you?
Oh, wow.
And I said, well, yeah, kind of. I got to learn all this. And he said, well, that's not a good way to start on your first day. But I like your tenacity. I like kind of your energy. All right, go away and learn it. So I ended up having to work 3 times, 4 times as hard as everybody else who had been hired because they came out of the top business schools and they knew what they were talking about. I knew nothing about basic financial concepts, knew nothing about planning, knew nothing about how to do research or analyze things. It was just a totally foreign language to me.
Do you think that was an advantage or disadvantage since you didn't have all that extra baggage?
Well, that's a great question. At the time, I definitely would have said it was a disadvantage because, and I put my hand over my heart, I'm telling you the truth, I ended up sleeping in my office many, many nights because I'd be there until 4 a.m. And then I'd kind of fall asleep and I'd wake up and the next day has started because I had to put out that extra effort. I had to go and figure it out, right? You had to make the mistakes and then take those mistakes and ask people, hey, why did I make a mistake? What do I need to do to fix it? So you've got to learn to be able to park that ego, and it's okay to ask for help. And I just wish the world today, given the state we're all in, I just wish everybody would ask for help as opposed to try to go in and destroy one another. It's, well, you're right and I'm wrong. Well, no, maybe you could help me be right and I can help you be right somehow. So if I hadn't have made those significant failures in my very first job, in the very first 1 or 2 months while all that was going on, I wouldn't have ended up teaching in a business school. I'm teaching the stuff that I knew nothing about. Right? And it was partly what you just said, because I came in with a totally different approach to problem solving, even analyzing information, even how I communicate. They had all learned how to communicate in bullet points, like quick little thought pieces. Hell, I graduated after writing a 350-page thesis on a topic.
Right.
I even communicated differently. And I think because I was bringing either no baggage or a different set of bags to the party, it allowed me to actually go in, as I learned about the basics, it allowed me to come in and add value in ways that some of these other folks couldn't. And I think that ultimately was a bit of a competitive advantage for me as I proceeded in my career.
That's incredible. That's an incredible story. Let's talk about investments. What would you say is the most worthwhile investment that you have ever made?
So the most worthwhile investment was me going out on my own and buying a used pair of drumsticks.
Mm.
Okay. Now you're probably going, what the hell is he talking about? I was 11 and I sat there and taught myself how to play the drums by wearing out 3 different times a complete set of Beatles albums. And again, remember, we're talking in the 60s and the 70s. And I just sat there and listened and over. And these drumsticks taught me how to play the drums. Now, you might be saying, I still don't see why that's a good investment. Well, as a result of having learned how to play the drums, I was able to put myself through university because I had to put myself through university, and I did so by playing in a band. I had to get up in a room full of strangers every night and perform. I had to figure out how to connect with a room full of strangers, right? Here's what I'm able to do, but we're going to make a little shift to it. We're going to change the song order. We're going to change the sets around, whatever, because we're out to engage people and try to get a reaction from them. And in doing so, it builds a level of confidence in your ability to get up in front of a room and be a good public speaker. Because you realize the worst that could happen is you have a bad song and people don't like it, right? Okay, well, then I fix it on the next song. But the confidence it gave you to get up there with a microphone stuck in your mouth and talk. So as I went on into my career, I found obviously making speeches, presentations, being a guest speaker at events, it forces you to appear as though you're very confident and not nervous when in fact you are. But you've got to control the room. Don't let the room control you. I learned that all from buying a set of drumsticks and learning how to play the drums. And it's worked. I mean, it even taught me how to teach at the universities that I teach at. And I love this type of thing. I love getting up and telling a story. I would say that was the best investment because I think the drumsticks might have cost me $5.
First time ever,
Yep.
drumsticks.
There you go.
I like it, man. So, in the last 5 years, what new belief, behavior, or habit has most improved your life?
So 5 years ago, I almost died. That was a bit of a shocker. And I'm not making a joke out of it. I had a heart attack and ended up with a triple bypass. But this was after many, many years before that of running marathons. Hell, I ran over 20 marathons. So all the training every morning out there running these miles. And you develop this kind of, well, nothing bad can ever happen to me because I'm in great shape. Well, what I came to learn was what ended up causing the heart attack was me not looking after what really matters most, and that is your health. Bring it on. I can do it all. I can sit on 3 boards. I can start a company. I can teach at a school. I can do all this. Well, yeah, maybe for a while, but sooner or later it catches up to you. And what the surgeon that performed the triple bypass said is that the bulk of the blockage that I had was caused by stress. So I carried it all inside me, Jonathan. I didn't let others in. I will handle this. I will deal with this. This is like sometimes that's just stupid male ego. And I totally, in hindsight, admit that. But what I learned was, no, you have to look after yourself to be able to look after others. I think many of us, because of the kind of lifestyles that we all feel dictate our happiness and our success, I think we all try to push ourselves to the max. And like I said, once in a while, that's good. But the surgeon actually gave me said, a little bit of red wine with a meal is a good thing. It actually helps your digestion. And it's good for you, actually. Like half a glass of red wine. But if every night you sat and drank an entire bottle of wine by yourself, too much of anything is bad for you. That's what you've gone and done, David. You've done it all and tried to do it all yourself. Well, it's okay to ask for help. Tie it back to that thing that I talked about with that failure. You'd think I'd be able to remember that all these years later. But I would say that what I've learned is that I love helping people. I love looking after my family. I love looking after good friends. But if I don't look after myself, I'm not in a position to do that. So everybody's got to dial it back a little bit.
Let's have some fun. Let's have some fun. What are some bad recommendations you hear in your area of expertise?
You've probably told the listeners I started a consulting firm, but it focuses on, it's a management consulting firm, but we do it through the lens of a brand, right? And the bad stuff that I hear is this ongoing, continued confusion or misunderstanding of what a brand is. So they will say, you know what, thanks for giving me a shout. Love to talk to you at some point, but we just relaunched our website, or we just launched a new line extension and we have new packaging. And I'm like, well, good. That's good for you. That's marketing. That's not brand management. And they look at me like I've got 3 heads. So what I still get is a lot of people confusing brand management, which is managing the most precious asset you have within a company. It drives the value of your organization, your business, on the balance sheet. It's IP. It's a soft asset that in most cases, as we move more and more to a service-based economy, that soft asset is critical. I get frustrated because despite writing 3 books about it, teaching about it, starting, we're celebrating our 20th anniversary this year as a company. So you're out there pounding away, trying to say a brand is this, marketing is that. The world still misunderstands the two. I think you're a brand. You are. I mean, you've built a wonderful brand with your podcasts, and forget the fact that you didn't finish school. It doesn't matter, right? You've developed a sustainable competitive advantage, a point of difference that creates value for somebody or people in a way that is unique and ownable. Well, great. So your name, your product, as your reputation, therefore, is as more important than what the actual product is. And that is a critical element. You've got to manage a reputation in a very different way. And that's the last book that I wrote. I interviewed a whole range of very successful CEOs around the world. and they gave me a lot of good advice and coaching. And I came back and reorganized it and said, I want to create the new 4 Ps. So the 4 Ps of marketing, most people are aware of: product, place, packaging, price, et cetera, et cetera. But then they again are mixing up marketing with brand. I said, no, what drives value in a brand? People, process, IP, and partnerships. And those belong to the CEO of an organization. They don't belong to your head of marketing. You market a brand, but managing a brand is a different set of skills. And that advice, I would love to be able to. That's why I do things like I'm doing here with you, is get that word out there and get that, even if it gets people to the point where they go, that's kind of an interesting, different way to look at it. Maybe I should give this guy a shout and talk that through a little bit and try to understand it. It continues to frustrate me.
So, is there ever a time where a company or a business is too small to be thinking about marketing and should just focus on marketing, or too small to focus on brand and maybe should focus on marketing, or are the two kind of necessary from the beginning?
The very first thing they should do is develop the strategy for their brand, even before they've launched it, because the brand lasts. The brand steers you through opportunities as well as issues and risks, right? You could have a product that just doesn't work. Well, okay, but that doesn't necessarily, if your brand's reputation is they deal with it quickly and they fix it, there's been no impact on the value of your brand, of your business. So starting from square one with what's the need in the market? How big is that need from a value standpoint? What's my point of difference and my value proposition to go after that in a way that nobody else can match so that I get my more than fair share of that value of that market? And then how do I organize my company to deliver that? And I actually, on the second book I wrote, I struggled for years to come up with, I would call it a layman's answer for what the definition of a brand is. Because if it's not marketing, I got a couple of good friends that said, okay, smartass, then what is it? Like if
Please,
it's
I'm wondering
if it's
too.
not marketing. So I said, well, the simplest way to think about it, a brand is the value. I can measure it. It's on your balance sheet. It's see that it drives what you sell your company for, how you leverage it to buy other companies or merge or whatever. So the value of a promise consistently kept. And again, super simple logic. Very few companies actually start out with that simple logic and set themselves up to figure out what that promise needs to be that creates value for the market, and then structure their organization and equip it and resource it and direct it and build a culture within it to keep that promise 24/7. And if you do, guess what? The value goes up. I mean, let's face it. Why do people stand in the pouring rain at 4 a.m. outside a store to be one of the first to get a new iPhone? Because they really need a new phone or a better camera? Really? You
Status,
got it,
baby.
right? So that reputation, that aura, that's a soft asset. But if they launched 3 rounds of iPhones and none of them worked, or everything that they'd built their reputation around, they kind of walked away from, well, chances are people wouldn't be standing out there at 4 a.m. in the pouring rain anymore. So it's a pretty simple equation. It's just most business leaders, as I said just a minute ago, don't seem to look at it that way. So it's the way forward.
Now we're about to get into your favorite part of the show, where we talk about results. But first, I've got to ask you, are you picking up what we're laying down here? I hope so. That's why we do the show every week. And I want to ask you for a little bit of help. If there's someone out there that you think can benefit from this show, why not share it with them? Put it out there, hit the share button, use hashtag ResultsLeaderFM, and get it out there. Now let's jump back into the interview. Why do results matter?
The results are what everybody judges you by, number one. But results are also what you hold yourself accountable for, or two. They're standards, they're goals, they're objectives. So, and I do believe, especially for small business entrepreneurs, owners, you're out there to, yes, produce something that gives you a wonderful life, right? I make good money with whatever this thing is. But deep down inside, I could have made a lot of money, a tangible result, but the way I did it doesn't jive with my values, with my approach to what is a priority in my life, or and balancing those things out is often a harder task than many people believe. And that's why I say getting a culture that is driven by a clear vision or purpose and a set of values that are important to you and that you believe can set some direction that creates behaviors. These are the kind of people I want to work with and work around and help and have them help me. All of that is critical, as critical, if not more critical, a set of results, soft results, than the hard results. Sales, revenue, earnings, etc. So results matter because they can be measured, and they matter to form your reputation both in a hard way and in a soft way.
We're going to move on. And this one, you better be able to answer. I'm throwing away this interview. So you ready? You ready for this?
Yeah, go.
Okay. What results are you most proud of?
Well, I would say the thing that really teaches me how to go about approaching living the next round in life is having gone through a time at university and school, all through the time during places that you've worked. It teaches you the importance of being able to develop an approach to question, being able to work with other people, to be able to bring many people involved in a project, and being able to learn more and more that in every time you do that in different companies and different industries, you walk away and you get different types of involvement, and then you get to a point where you played a leadership role. Like you stop worrying about delivering something and you worry about growing yourself. And it's unfortunately it ends up being in your last 10, 15, 20 years you play in a different game that is just about working out the best way to live as opposed to the best way to grow. So leadership becomes very personal. It becomes much more focused on it as an individual as opposed to you running a whole group of people. And I think sometimes that just happens as you become older and you just develop a stage where you're learning all over again. And that's kind of where I'm at this stage. Is the business is done well. It's fun teaching at the universities. And I've done all of that work, but I want to be over by myself and I want to start all over again and not worry about trying to work out or work for others, but work for myself. And it's just a tough thing to get through. It's just a tough thing you got to go through. And like I'm mid 60s, right? And I really do find that I learn more by spending time to do things that don't apply just within your company or within a role, a specific role as the vice president of something or even the CEO of something. You build all that, and that gets you to the point where it teaches you how to just grow as a person and feel good about, just, uh, just opening up and learning. Like it's a totally different stage. And that's what I'm just starting to get into. I'm really enjoying it because it's taking me into a whole new world, a whole different way to think of things, the way to talk. I love talking to people like you to understand what other companies have done and how they've worked. Well, I've done all that. How do I do something that's unique, that's mine? And that's kind of what I'm enjoying.
I hear you saying, I'm going to give this simple, less academic version. I hear you talking about wisdom without ego. That's all I hear you saying. You're in a whole nother place.
Exactly. You do get to that point where, sure, might I become a little more wise or improve the wisdom in a specific area and work harder and harder in that? Yeah, you could probably do that. But you get to that point where I've done it already. I did it in a 4 or 5 different companies. I did it when I started a company all by myself. All like seriously started it as me, and it grew into a company of 40 people. So it's like, yeah. Those are all wonderful opportunities and ways to live. I want to go over here and try something all by myself. And that's different. That's new. And I think you walk away as a better person.
Yeah, man. So I know that our listeners are going to want more from you. Where can they get it?
I do believe every single one of us has a desire or a need that is unique, that basically helps define who you are. Like you're a brand. Every single one of us is a brand. We have a tendency to allow the world or the industries that we work in to become good. You become a leader within a certain industry, but it's the industry that has basically told you what it is you need to become good at. And you work hard at that and you improve within a set of results or capabilities that fit within an industry. It's being able to take that and going up all on your own. And that to me is, sometimes I think that can happen. You don't have to wait until you're mid 60s to do it. If you're smart enough to take into account and understand your ability to deliver within an organization, but then to also do it in a way that allows you to be proud of you as a brand, to allow you to turn around and say, this is what I want to focus on. I want to be able to explore things in a new and a different way. I've got to ask certain types of questions that aren't part of the industry that I've worked in. So you're good in the industry and then you're good as a standalone. And that ultimately, I think, is what else leaves people as an individual brand, as somebody that can add great value. And it's a one by one. Each one of us does it in our own way.
What's your website? What's the name of your books? Let's lead people to more David Kincaid.
Well, I know that they can capture it all if they go right on to there's a website that attaches to the company's site. So the best one is D Kincaid. So DKINCAID at Level5. It's the number, not word, Level5Strategy.com. And when you go into that, you will see on the Level5 website, there's a whole section where you can go in and view an overview of all 3 of the books that have been written. You can buy them right there.
Excellent. We will share links in the show notes. We've been speaking to Mr. David Kincaid. Thank you for hanging with us, and thank you, results leaders, for tuning in. Another show is in the can. That is a wrap for another edition of ResultsLeader.fm. If you are out there getting results for your clients and you want to be featured on the show, go to ResultsLeader.fm now and apply to be on the show. And if you love what you're hearing, share the show, give us a rating and review, do anything to help us get the message out there. Thought leadership is easy, but results leadership is hard. We'll catch you on the next one.
This program is brought to you by thepodcastfactory.com.